All right, folks, good afternoon or good evening or good morning, whenever you're watching this video. Mr. Mancia is here. We're going to go ahead and get on the next iteration, which is putting physics on our players, okay? Or, as I would like to call them, colliders. All right, right now, I'm going to take it off of this one because my video, I had a faux pas with my video, so I'm going to go ahead and clear these out so we can restart again. So give me 1 second. There we go. So how do I get a physics collider? So I want to show you two ways. You got this one where you add components, and you have a component up here also. Okay, physics 2D. I want a box collider for my player one because it is a box, and as you can see, it is right there. You get a little bit more physics here. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see that green surrounding the box. There's a barrier there. You can see my box. All right. It is good practice to usually bring it in a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it on the outline. Falling object, do the same thing for that. This falling object is green, so you probably won't see it as clearly unless you mess with the X and Y and Z, or X and Y on it. So let's take a look real quick. Our radius right here. Play with it up, out. Okay, so for this one, I am going to bring it in just a little bit right there. Okay, so 0.63 is good. The next thing I need to do is add another physics to it, and this is called a rigid body. This rigid body gives me um, more components to play with, but it is also needed for when two objects are going to be touching each other. Okay, so the rigid body 2D, inside the rigid body is something we need to turn off, and that's the gravity. Set that to 0, please. If not, when you get a chance, leave that gravity on 1, hit the play button, and you'll see what happens. Okay, but normally we want to have that off. And I'm going to go ahead and add a rigid body to my player 1 also. Physics 2D, rigid body, turn off my gravity, set it to 0, and now we are right where we need to be. Okay, so whenever you have objects that are going to be colliding with each other, we are going to be using colliders. And when you want something to happen to them, also you can throw in a rigid body. Okay, and those rigid bodies are going to come in handy here later on. All right, so let me see something here. All right, so right now we have two objects with barriers. Okay, when these barriers hit, they're going to move each other. Okay, in this case, because this is a moving object and this is an inanimate object, the moving object is going to push the inanimate object, right? The relativity theory. So if I get in its way, I am going to get pushed out of the way, just like that. And you can see that I am crooked until he comes and hits me again. So two barriers, that's what's going to happen. So what we need to do is make these barriers triggers, and that's found in the collider area. You see this thing that says is trigger, so we're going to go ahead and check that off. And we're going to go ahead and do it for both of them because both of them are eventually going to become triggers. So now what happens is that these guys are now, they're going to react to each other, but not in the way you think. So right now they're going to go through each other, but Unity is saying, hey, something's supposed to happen because these guys are now triggers. So when they bump into each other, something should occur. Okay. Right now, nothing. So what is going to happen is we're going to adjust some code here in a minute. Okay, so what's the next thing we need to do? Well, I want to go ahead and activate these triggers. So what I want it to happen is, let's say I have my player one right here. So when it comes into contact with my circle, my falling object, right? So I want it to make contact. These two colliders make contact. It hits the trigger. And what I want it to do now is bounce back up to the top of the screen. Okay, so I want it to acknowledge that it made contact and then go back up to the top of the screen. Later on, we're going to go ahead and add like an explosion. We're also going to add bullets, so it's going to have to make contact with bullets and also get bounced back up to the thing. This is going to also be adding points later on, and also this is also good for additional lives when we kill the right one or activate the special power that we're going to put in. Okay, so right now we are going to need to work on the code to be able to get this going. Okay, so let's open up our falling object scripts. We can go ahead and open up both of them. So I like to open up both. I like to have both scripts readily available. Okay, so let me go back, open up player one also. There we go. So now we have both of them. All right. Okay, so we got to figure out where we want to put the trigger. You can put it on player one, but I think falling objects is going to be better because it's going to also be dealing with the bullets hitting it. So Unity allows us to create special functions. Okay, special functions. So and functions go between the second and last bracket, as you guys were taught. Hopefully, some of you remember. And the special code that we're going to put in here is called a on trigger enter 2D. So it's looking like this: void capital ON trigger enter 2D. Okay, and of course don't forget your parentheses, and also don't forget your brackets. Okay, gotta have your brackets. All right. Oh, what happened there? Okay, I'm sorry. Having some keyboard malfunctions. We have to put an argument in here. So this argument is going to be collider (2D). Okay, so that's going to be the name of the object that we're going to be calling, and we're going to store it in other. Okay, that's the name we're going to give it. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, I think that's it. That's going to work right there. All right, so let's test this out real quick. Let's go ahead and go inside the brackets. I want you to go ahead and just test it out real quick. I want to go ahead and hit print, and we're going to create a little statement here with quotation marks. We got hits. Okay, we got hits. Close that out. Save it. Let's see if we're at least making some collision contacts, right? And we should see it on the console once we hit play. If everything's working out well, it should print up that we are getting hit right here. Got hit. Right there. And we got it. All right, so our code is working. All right, so now we need to make it react to something. Make it do something. We need to bounce it back to the top, correct? All right, so we see that it does get hit, so we don't need this anymore. All right, so we're going to go ahead and leave this alone for right now. But now, what do I want it to do when it does get hit? Okay, so as you guys know, we had already created that up here. If a transform position, blah, 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 hits, right? What do I want it to do? Well, I'm going to want it to move to the top. So I don't want to recreate this code. Anytime you need to recreate the same code, you might as well make it a function. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and make it a function. Where am I going to make it? Right above this other function that we got. Okay? So this is called a user function. So that means that you can pretty much name it anything you want. Void, and I'm going to call this one move to, oh, I'm sorry, I'm breaking the rule. Move to top. And the rule that I just mentioned, well, first letter, capital letters, and no spaces. Okay? No spaces. And that gets its own parentheses and its own set of brackets. Okay? Oops, wrong ones. These right here, curly brackets. All right? So now, anytime I hit, I want it to move to the top. So let's go ahead and grab this. Okay? We're going to go ahead and grab this. We're going to cut it. Control X will cut it. And I'm going to put it right in between my brackets. Okay? And now it would go to the top. But first, I need to call it. So for those of you that remember doing functions, all you got to do is grab the name of it, because this is the name. Like when you call somebody, you actually call them by their name. You're going to copy that. I'm going to put it right here where it gets called. If transform position is, what happens? I'm going to move to the top. Okay? Close that out with your semicolon. All right. So now, since we called it here, because when I hit F, -15, it's going to move to the top. It's going to call move to the top. It's going to look for it, finds it. It's going to do everything in here. Okay? Let's take a look and see if that is true. So when I hit play, or wait for the code to catch up, when I hit play, it should still follow the same process of it going to the bottom and coming right back up. Okay? All right. So back to the code. Now, what happens if it hits that square? I want it to go back to the top also, right? So what do I need to do? I need to call it. Okay? Good. So this move to the top, I just copy it again. Right? Control C. Then I'm going to put it right in here under the void trigger enter. So that means whenever I hit something, like the player, I'm going to recycle myself and go back to the top. Okay? Because now this is going to follow what this is. All right? Hit that save button. All right, so let's go ahead and save it. Right? And then this is what should happen in theory. As you're looking at the code, let me shrink it down just a little bit. So we got our speed, we got our random range of speed, we have our object that moves, that we are able to have it fall down because we're going in the down direction. So when it reaches a certain point, which is -15.72, it's going to move back up to the top, or it's going to call move to top. It's going to look for it, and there it is. There's that function, move to top, that we created. It's going to execute everything that's in here. Okay. Another option that it's going to do, let me delete a few of this. Another thing that it's going to do is whenever there's a collision with something else, this is the other, it should move back to the top also. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right. And if you did everything okay, it should work just fine. So let's go ahead and hit this. Go back to Unity, and let's take a look and see if our code is working. So we fall, goes back up. We make contact, it falls, it goes back up. And so far it looks good. All right. Contact there. Oh, I'm not sure if it hit. Maybe the speed is a little too fast, but hey, it's all right. And And contact, boom, contact, boom, contact, good. All right. So we are making contact just like we should, and it is recycling back to the top like it should. Also, if we don't touch it, it should recycle back to the top. All right. So we've accomplished what we needed to accomplish. We added collision to both of our sprite objects. We added rigid bodies to both, okay, because we are going to need it. And we did make both of them triggers. And just a reminder to make sure you turn off the gravity. Again, if you get a chance to play with it, go ahead and keep it at 1 on the falling object and you'll see what happens. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to let you find out for yourself because I know curiosity is going to strike you and you're going to want to put a gravity there. Okay? Go ahead. Feel free. For the player 1, he's just going to fall off the screen. All right? So I think we've accomplished what we needed to accomplish for today, day number 4. And we're going to go ahead and stop here. Tomorrow we're going to add a bullet. Well, actually, I'll be adding bullets early on, making a video, and you guys will imitate what I create. Okay, so make sure you are paying attention to your instructor on this video. All right, folks, that's all I have for you today. That is the end of this video. And if you have any issues, give me a shout. Don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. If you think this video was too easy, let me know. If you think it was too hard, let me know. If you think it was just the perfect pace, please let me know. If I need to make improvements, I take your input seriously. Okay? Thank you and have a good day.